Welcome to the Water and Food Award briefing. This one's going to take you through some snapshots of this year's finalists. I'm Stephen Hinton and I'm the applications manager, and I've had the honour of seeing the process through from the hundreds of applications we received to selecting the finalists. Before I talk about the finalists, I'd like to give some perspective and talk about some of the things that we've observed about food provision in the world as we've gone along. The first thing is that our children, some of our children, are poorly fed, and this isn't just in developing countries but all over the world. For example, this picture is taken outside the Central Hall in Westminster from a London newspaper that says that 9 of 10 head teachers have been worried about their pupils being hungry and have given them breakfast. This of course is important for us because children who don't get fed, it affects them all their lives, and we're in danger of damaging people for generations to come. The next thing we've observed is that there's been a loss of biodiversity in that fewer and fewer varieties are being used. Industrial agriculture uses maybe just a couple of hundred of species and varieties, whereas traditional agriculture uses thousands, and of course it may be more efficient, but it's more susceptible to all the changes that might be happening. Another observation is we met the concept of food deserts. Food deserts are often urban things, and they're characterized by people being unable to find nutritious food, either through economic circumstances or simply through town planning. A third thing we've seen is how unsustainable an industrialized food system is, and this is characterized and illustrated by this diagram that we got from one of our finalists of the analysis of how to create eggs. And this shows the huge amount of fossil and mineral inputs that are used, and also the amount of handling and transport that's required. Now this brings us to the next idea of the difference between sustainability and resilience we've seen. We talk about being green, and that's really important, that we should be able to carry on living without damaging the ecosystem, or being efficient with the ecosystem, we could say. It's about eco-efficiency. But how about our food provision system being resilient? That's to say, it should be able to withstand and recover from challenges. If you like, there are two different perspectives that both need to be married, one of being efficiency, and one of handling risks. And this is something that we've looked for in our finalists initiatives, the definition of true sustainability, which is being able to combine both of these factors. Let's go to the first finalist, and let's go to Zimbabwe. And one of the biggest problems in the area is one of land degradation, and if land degrades, so does its ability to provide the ecosystem service of food for us. In northwest Zimbabwe, it's desertification. Soil is eroded. When it's eroded, it's unable to hold water. Because of that, droughts and floods erode soil even more. Now, it has been thought that overgrazing has been the explanation for this, as hoofed animals have eaten the ground cover, and that's meant that it hasn't been able to hold the soil together. The Finalists African Centre for Holistic Management has had another idea. What they're doing is to mimic the behaviour of grazing animals and predators that once created the savannas, and that's different. When animals are in the wild with predators, they hold together in order to protect their young and to be able to protect themselves. This means that they're in small spaces for a short time. The hooves break up the hard ground. This means that air and water can penetrate. They trample down old grass. The dung and urine fertilize, and by grazing and grazing heavily that point, they keep the perennial grasses healthy. And here's a picture of what it looks like before and after. You can also put the herds into fields after harvest, and experiments there have shown that they can increase yields 5-fold. There's some amazing insights to be had from studying this initiative, and one of them is that livestock can actually reverse land degradation and improve lives in Africa on the massive scale needed. It would be through using hoofed animals that we could push the deserts back, and that's perfectly possible because we wouldn't need to create a lot of industrial solutions and use a lot of fossil fuel. Let's go to the USA, in Milwaukee. USA's urban areas have been plagued by poverty and food shortages, and actually food deserts, as we talked about earlier. 65% of children actually in poverty. 82 of them, their parents can't feed them, and so they get a school lunch subsidy. Because of food deserts, some of them, quite a few of them, are overweight. The initiative Growing Power transforms useless properties into highly productive community food centres, and they've done it by integrating multi-level greenhouses with worms, vermiculture, composting, aquaponics, beekeeping, livestock. Here's some pictures of their the way they do things with the multi-level greenhouse, where they have fish in the bottom level, and the fish dirty the water, and the water's then pumped back up to the top level, which is used as fertilizer for the plants, and it goes round like that. And there's also a high level of composting, and you've got the vermiculture there at the bottom. Growing Power's had amazing results. They've managed to produce and distribute food to food insecure neighbourhoods through food baskets. They've had farm stands. They've created sustainable farmer cooperatives. They're now serving snacks to 40,000 school students, and they're also providing health clinics and hospitals with healthy food. Not only have Growing Power demonstrated that it's possible to have high production per square metre in the cities, but they've also been able to show how you can educate through demonstration, and people have been able to see how you can use waste and compost it, generating electricity from the sun, recycling heat energy, using fish without chemicals. And they've also been able to engage youth through youth programs, training and outreach. I think one of the insights from Growing Power is that food security in urban areas can be reversed when you bring community together and combine available solutions like aquaponics and small-scale farming, etc., etc. Let's go to South Africa. Down in South Africa, just north of northwest of Port Elizabeth, is a nature reserve. looks like this. I can't really pronounce it very well. The Bavanskluv Nature Reserve. The land is very and highly susceptible to erosion, and once erosion starts, it's difficult to stop it. There's a picture here. Because of the massive erosion that's happened, it's actually lowered the water table. At the same time, it's created a soil loss, and the land has become very highly unproductive, which in itself has created food insecurity for local residents. A project called Living Lands has brought together landowners, researchers, squatters and experts. It's brought them together to learn together and to also start pilots. Some of the things they've tried is speakbulm planting. It's this succulent plant you can see there being carried up the hill. They have reforested 1,000 hectare, and they've managed to restore 5 river and alluvial fan sites. Now they give us a glimpse of the future. Firstly, it's one of payments for ecosystem services. Thanks to their renovation work, the water tables started to rise, productivity started to come back to the land, and this has helped Port Elizabeth. It's improved the water security for them, and the city authorities have been considering actually paying them for ecosystem services. Because they've been planting speakbulm, which is a good carbon sequesterer, they've been able to look at carbon credits, adding to that ecotourism. And that's just part of what you can get from working with restoration. And then they've been able to add to that sustainable food production. There's some insights into this in the way that they've worked, because they've brought squatters, landowners, researchers, community together. It's creating a holistic and collective understanding of the area as a living landscape, and having groups work with it both theoretically and practically opens up for a sustainable future. Let's go to Kenya now. And one of the biggest problems that affects society, of course, is food shortages. And also the attitude to food shortage comes and starts when you're young. So we've had it's been maybe a lack of education that's been one of the problems. Our finalist here sees the problem as being multidimensional. There's food insecurity, but there's also poor healthcare, and there's also no clean water, which makes it worse, and people generally living in miserable conditions. The finalist CNET decided to work with education, not any kind of education, but e-learning, and they're providing internet training for schools. So the schools can create gardens, first of all to feed their students, and to create demonstration plots where the whole community can be stimulated, and they can put entrepreneurship, things like growing food, but also food production and processing and making business around the whole thing. Some pictures of what the school gardens look like. To date, they have 11 schools participating, which means thousands of pupils, parents and local people have been touched by this initiative. The gardens have shown amazing productivity. This is helping because the students' nutrition is improved and the knowledge is spreading to the local neighbourhoods. It also means that students are becoming more interested in food production as a way of life and as a job and occupation, whereas in many cases students have wanted to be working in advertising or in working with marketing, or just getting away from the land, which is seen as having a low status. What CNET shows is that schools can play a key role in supporting a community in transitioning to a sustainable food secure provision future. Let's go to India now, an organisation based in Chennai. They've been working in the Tamil Nadu and Odisha areas. Climate change, poor soil and high immigration all contribute both to low productivity and poverty in turn. And when people move, they often lose their traditional understanding of how to create food security. So migration caused by climate change is a real threat to food security because of this. MSSRF, the Research Foundation, has brought people together with scientists, and they've created various user groups, water user groups, paddy and pulse farmers groups, self-help groups, well water users. They brought the scientific community together with these groups to teach holistic farming, community-based equity approaches, and they've also helped with enterprise development. It's a picture from one of the initiatives. Some 5,000 people have been involved in the project sites, and they've managed to increase land productivity, especially improving water harvesting structures, and they've also helped increase local enterprise. What this shows us is that science-based initiatives combined with a people-centered and process-oriented approach can restore productivity and restore enterprise. So that's all I had to say, and thank you for listening. Bye from me.